Last, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride are referred to in Christian teachings as the seven deadly sins. These, to the Roman Catholics, are the cardinal sins. If a person commits any of them, he is believed to be cut off from God's grace. Perhaps when St. Paul and St. Gregory the Great worked on the list of capital vices, they may have not heard that God instructed them to list down not 7 but 8 deadly sins. They may have overlooked another human frailty that should have been added in the list of sins. There exists another spiritual infirmity, which I believe should be considered equally harmful as any of the deadly sins. Let's call it self-doubt. My proposition that self-doubt be classified also as a sin may not be considered seriously. Many might even say it's preposterous. But is it? Is self-doubt just an ordinary flaw in a person's character? Is it really a bit too much to consider it a sin? Is it not a serious offense? Something that when committed could ruin a person's life. Allow me to argue my assertion that self-doubt is a sin. For those who do not believe in the concept of religion, think of self-doubt not as a sin, but an injury you inflict upon yourself. In this discourse, I will define self-doubt strictly as the feeling of not having confidence in yourself or your abilities. The concept of doubt being discussed here does not refer to that philosophical function to cast doubt. The definition I gave, the one before the disambiguation, makes self-doubt sound harmless, not something immoral or demonic that would make the moralists and the Bible scholars, both past and present, look at it as a sin. That's probably the reason no religious movement, Christianity included, classified such human inadequacy as a sin. You might also refuse to accept that it is an injury you inflict upon yourself. Self-doubt, however, is not as simple as it seems. This impotence of the human spirit has grave consequences, not only to the person having it, but to the family where he belongs and to the society where he lives. A person plagued by it will be less productive or not productive at all, and is definitely not going to contribute anything, not only to his family and society, but more so for himself. In arguing that self-doubt is a sin or a self-inflicted injury, it is important to review the nature of sin in the philosophical standpoint. Sin is said to be a moral evil. This brings us to another question. What is evil? St. Thomas defines the word evil as a privation of form or order or due measure. Evil implies a deficiency in perfection. Self-doubt is clearly an imperfection. It indicates the absence of confidence, which is considered essential for a person's well-being and is a requirement in the pursuit of what Abraham Maslow refers to in psychology as self-actualization or achieving one's full potential. Sin is a diversion from the perceived ideal order of human living. A person doubting his capabilities veers away from becoming the best that he can be and reduces his chance of living life to the fullest. It could be argued that there are a lot of other negative human characters that may indicate imperfections, but none is as damaging to the person as self-doubt. Something is wrong with a person if he lacks confidence and has very low or no feeling of self-worth. These are conditions that may lead to failure and unhappiness. In addition, philosophical or moral sin is a human act not in agreement with rational nature and right reason. It is not considered reasonable to doubt one's capabilities. It is a person's moral obligation to believe in himself. It is not right to think one would fail even without really trying. He needs to have faith, not only in God, if he happens to believe in one, but also in himself. Allowing self-doubt to reign is depriving the self of discovering one's full potentials. When a person decides to doubt himself, he eradicates his ability to fulfill his goals and to achieve his dreams. Failures are indeed impossible not to happen. But even if one fails in several attempts to succeed, he should decide not to stop trying. There's a long list of famous personalities like Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln, J.K. Rowling, Bill Gates, Walt Disney, and Henry Ford, who had their share of failures but never gave up. But is self-doubt a self-inflicted injury? Sin also wounds the nature of man. This is what the Catholic religion asserts. Self-doubt destroys the heart, mind, body, and soul. It is one of the major obstacles to living the life that people truly deserve. This unhealthy food for the soul drags down a person's spirit, crushes his ambitions, and prevents him from achieving all that he can. Doubt impedes a person's development. It is the biggest roadblock to self-actualization. Self-doubt prevents people from becoming the best they could be, from realizing their full potentials, and from achieving their dreams. And according to Shakespeare, our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. Doubt could possibly kill more dreams than failure ever did. Some degree of self-doubt is generally held to be normal. It can be helpful in some cases, as it often leads to introspection and enhanced performance. But it may require medical help when it becomes debilitating, affects daily function, or impedes performance at work or school. There's no immorality committed when one doubts himself. Why should it then be considered a sin? This brings me to the last among my arguments to convince you that self-doubt should be considered a sin. something that you should avoid committing. A sin may either be a sin of commission or a sin of omission. Sins of commission are sins we commit by doing something we shouldn't do, and sins of omission are sins we commit by not doing something we should. The 7 deadly sins are all sins of commission except sloth. Sloth, which is extreme laziness or the failure to act and utilize one's talents, is considered a sin of omission. I think self-doubt belongs to that category. If sloth made it to the list of the deadly sins, self-doubt should be there also. Self-doubt is just as damaging, perhaps more damaging, to a person than this sin called sloth. Actually, in some instances, a person's failure to use his innate talents starts with his inability to believe what he is capable of doing. Believe me, self-doubt, if not avoided, will bring nothing but regrets. I hope that the arguments I presented about self-doubt are convincing enough that from this point on, you would move as far away from it as possible. Conquer your self-doubt and start to nurture self-belief, which I think is the key component of the value system of the few men and women who successfully scaled the heights of success.